Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I am making refreshing summer drinks that don't break the budget. One of my viewers suggested this last week and I thought what a great idea. It is so hot out and there's nothing more refreshing than a cold drink. I'm going to start out with something that is very inexpensive to make. This has been on my bucket list for a long time now, and that is hibiscus juice or hibiscus tea. I'm actually going to make both. And this is just the flowers of the hibiscus plant. And these are very inexpensive. I bought this bag for about $3, but you can find this in many different places. I found these on ad this week for $4.99 a pound at El Super, but the leaves are so lightweight that when you buy a pound, you get a ton of this. And so if you did buy a pound, it would go a very long way. But of course you could buy just a third of a pound and then you would have lots of drinks from that. And just for a reference point, this bag is only 4 ounces. I would have liked to have picked some up on the sale, but I was in a super big hurry this weekend. So I just picked this up at my local market. And here is what the hibiscus flower looks like in its growing state. It's such a beautiful red color. And this is a beloved drink around the world, and every region makes this drink a little bit different. This is consumed as both a hot and cold drink. It's interesting because reading about this, I discovered that it's basically the main ingredient is always hibiscus, but it varies by like 1 or 2 ingredients. As long as you have the hibiscus leaves, you can make the simplest version of this. And I wanted to say that I did smell this first because I am completely new to hibiscus. I know that in the South, this is very popular, but I've never tried this, even though I grew up with a family with Southern roots. But this did smell kind of spicy, actually, a little bit different than I expected it to smell. So I'm wondering what this is going to taste like. I was actually expecting a little bit more of a floral note to the scent. So I'm going to start out by adding some into this colander, and then I'm going to rinse these leaves very gently and very quickly. And now that I've learned about what a beloved drink this is, I do feel like I've been missing out. I mean, this is the national drink of Senegal, which is a West African country. And as I'm saying that, it does make sense now of why it would become popular in the southern states of the US, because West African slaves were brought to Louisiana against their will. But again, all over the world, they have a drink that is made out of these hibiscus leaves, and I plan to try at least a few of those today. All right, this is one of those drinks that you don't want to be shy on the sugar. And I already know this because I made a first batch and I was trying to go really light on the sugar, and I ended up spilling that juice and I had to start over again. But you want to go ahead, most people say to use a cup of sugar. I added a little less than a cup, probably about 3/4 of a cup, but it really depends on the amount of sugar that you typically use. But going the first time, you might want to just go ahead and go with a full cup. And I'm going to cook this for 5 minutes, and I turn this heat down just slightly so it could kind of do a simmer. And then I'm going to turn this off after 5 minutes and strain this. But I couldn't resist. I wanted to taste it while it's hot, since this is a very popular drink. And gosh, I love this. It does not taste at all what I expected. It tastes kind of like cranberry, actually, which I love cranberry. But yeah, I could see myself making this in the winter. And also the health benefits of this is just ridiculous, as with most colorful items that we eat. I've even read that this helps to lower blood pressure, and it's rich in antioxidants. And you do want to be very careful with this because this is such a bright red that it will stain. And because I'm going to use this a couple of different ways, I decided to put these in 2 of my canning jars, and then I can try them with the different recipes. I'll try the basic recipe for tea and juice, and then I was watching a video from someone that said his Egyptian family drinks Karkade with mint and orange juice, and that just sounded so good to me as someone that likes mint. It just sounds like a really refreshing twist on this. So those will be the 3 versions that I'm going to try today. And I'm going to put one of these in the fridge and put the other in the freezer so that this is nice and cold when I'm ready to try it. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and make some iced tea. One of my favorite drinks is sweet tea. And so today I thought I would make a hibiscus flavored iced tea. And I'm just going to boil one of these tea bags because I'm making a very small amount. All right, to start out with, I'm going to try the hibiscus juice just plain. This is also called Florida Jamaica in Mexico, which means flower of hibiscus, but it literally translates to flower of Jamaica because the first hibiscus plants were brought over from Jamaica. And this is just very simply the hibiscus juice and water and sugar. This is such a beautiful drink, and I was so shocked when I found out all of the health benefits of hibiscus leaves. They're actually one of the highest things in antioxidants, even higher than blueberries, which was shocking. So this is definitely something I want to add into my rotation. I love this. To me, it tastes kind of like cranberry juice, but just a little bit different. But this is definitely addictive. It is so refreshing. And you could also make this with some crushed ice. I think that would be really good. I actually drank a couple of glasses of this. It was so good. Next, I'm going to try hibiscus tea. I have a half of a glass of this hibiscus juice, and then I'm just going to add the tea in and mix it up. And this is just the tea you saw me preparing earlier, and it has had a chance to chill in the fridge for a while. And so I'm just going to blend these together. I do like flavored teas. However, I really don't make them very often. But it's kind of nice just to add a little additional interest sometimes in the summer for a treat. So I'm going to try this. And this is so refreshing. I didn't sweeten my tea at all because I knew that this was already sweetened. And I typically don't tend to drink sugary drinks. So I found this very refreshing, but if you make it, you might want to go ahead and sweeten your tea. This was fantastic. I'll definitely be making this again. And while I was doing this, I was thinking about how wonderful it would be to can some of the condensed version of the hibiscus juice in cans and then pull it out to use it whenever you needed it. My son picked me up 2 oranges and I already had 2 oranges, but look how different the ones on the top are. Those are supposed to be Valencia, I think. And the bottom are navel oranges, but it looks like the top are not ripe, or they almost look like lemons. I don't know how good those are going to be. I saw this TikToker make this Egyptian Karkade, which is their word for hibiscus juice. But his version added in some mint and orange, which sounded so good to me. I love both of those, and the combination just sounded really refreshing for summer. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up some of this mint. He actually boiled some of the leaves in with the hibiscus leaves. I'm not going to do that because I already have my hibiscus juice made. So I'm just going to add some of these leaves to a jar, and I'm going to let it kind of just sit in there for a while, and I'm sure that they'll get lots of flavor just by kind of permeating that juice. However, I realized that maybe I added a little bit too much. I don't want to overwhelm the flavor with mint. I just want it to be a little bit of an accent. And then I'll go ahead and set this in the freezer while I'm cutting up some oranges. And I just had to cut into the light yellow colored one, and this doesn't look very good, so I'm not going to use that, which is what I was afraid of. So I'm going to go ahead and add some of these to my glass and also some to the juice bottle so that they get some flavor. But first I'm going to squeeze a small portion, just enough for a glass. Obviously, if you're making this and you're making a big pitcher, which is what I would do normally, I would go ahead and add some more orange juice in here. But again, I'm just making 1 glass. And I did clean and scrub these oranges so that I could remove any wax that might be on them. And I did let this chill in the freezer for a while before I drank this. And I forgot to layer in some of the fresh mint. So I pulled some of the ice back out and then added that in. You know, it's amazing all of the wonderful drinks that you can make for $5 or less. You can get a bag of ice, some hibiscus leaves, and some mint and a couple oranges, and you're good to go. Visually, this is very appealing to me. It looks fresh and it's beautiful. I always like to make things that are beautiful, and this is so good. It's as good as I thought it was going to be. It just has a very mild mint flavor, which is what I wanted. I didn't want it to overpower it, and the orange juice is very light as well. This is a great combination. This is my favorite drink so far. I think that this is the version of hibiscus tea that I'll be making. I had so much fun making these drinks this weekend because it was super hot out, and it would be nice for a family to have a new drink maybe that you made every weekend and just made a really big pitcher of it. It would be fun for everyone to try the different kinds of drinks. You can also discuss the culture, and everyone can kind of chime in on what their favorite version of the drinks are. And I also read about sometimes people adding a little bit of lime to the Florida Jamaica version, which is the straight hibiscus juice. And I think that that would be really good, so next time I'm going to try that. I wanted to try some agua fresca, and I thought I would try pineapple agua fresca. I had this can of crushed pineapple in the pantry, and I thought it was a great recipe hack to just use the canned pineapple. It's already in the heavy syrup, meaning it's pre-sweetened, so this should make for a very easy drink. I prepared this earlier in the week and added it to the freezer so that it's nice and frozen today. And I'm just going to go ahead and blend this up and maybe add a little bit of water and we should have a drink. But even eating these little pieces of pineapple made me realize that even this canned pineapple would make for some great popsicles, or any kind of slushy drink would be delicious with these. I use a lot of frozen bananas with my smoothies, but I think that adding these in would be very delicious. I always keep some bottles of cold water in my fridge, and they are perfect for this. I realized that this was too thick, so I added a little more water and blended this again, and then it turned out perfect. And depending on how much water you add, you will need to add more sugar. But I like it just like this, so I'm not adding any more sugar. Agua frescas are frequently made with just the water and the juice, and it's not slushy and frozen like this, but some are, and I'm just really into these frozen drinks right now because they do cool me down, and my place is really hot, so I am all about these slushy drinks right now. This is really good. I actually liked it better than I thought I was gonna like it. It was really good. And then I started thinking that this kind of tastes like one of those Dole Whips. They sell those at Disneyland, and also they're really popular in Hawaii. And I was reading on the Dole Whip ingredients, and they actually use a powder in it, but it has a little bit of coconut and I think it said lemon. So I was trying to kind of recreate that. So I decided to add some coconut cream, which I just happen to have on hand because I'm making horchata next. And then I added some lemon and some more of the pineapple ice cubes. And this ended up being my all-time favorite drink, I think, of this entire video. As soon as I tasted it, I knew that I just made a pina colada, but I was actually trying to make the Dole Whip. But it was so good. It was creamy and smooth and just so refreshing. And my son loved this too. He loved it so much that I made him one of these later on. And now for my final drink of the video, I'm going to be making some horchata. And this is a beloved Mexican drink. Actually, this is a much loved drink around the world. But the version that I'm going to be making is the Mexican version. I guess this originated in Spain and it was originally made out of tiger nuts, which are actually not nuts at all. They're a little bulb that grows like a root, kind of like peanuts do, but these are chewy and delicious and they taste kind of like coconut. I'm not sure that these are budget friendly. Maybe they are. I guess it depends on how many of these you need to use. I had to get these just out of curiosity. I'm going to try this and tell you what I thought of it in another video. But this version uses rice and I'm using basmati rice. I'm going to wash my rice really good first, and I always wash it until the water runs clear. And then I'm going to add some cinnamon sticks to this. I will use 2 cinnamon sticks and I'm going to break them apart so that that fresh cinnamon will permeate really well into the water, because I'm going to be adding some water to this. Everyone makes their recipe a little different, but I did find the most popular recipe that I could find, and it was from Muy Delish. I will link that channel in the description area of my video, and I will also write out the regular recipe, but I'll be using this to make 2 versions of horchata. I'm making one version that will be the regular horchata, and then I'm making another version that will be made with coconut milk. And the recipe said to let it sit overnight or a minimum of 4 hours. And now I'm going to add half of the mixture to my blender. And I'm hoping my blender is going to do a good job on this. Some of the recipes said to just add all of the cinnamon sticks in there. This one said just to add maybe a few small pieces and then to pull the rest out. So that's what I'm going to do. And I forgot to mention, I smelled this and it smells divine. It just, it's almost like comforting. It smells comforting with the cinnamon. It is so aromatic. So I'm going to take this first one and blend this up. And here is how this worked. And this is what it looks like. I think it turned out pretty good. And then you're going to strain it into a pitcher. And I might have made a mistake here because I didn't add all of the leftover rice mixture and try to really get all of the extra juice out of that. I just kind of poured it into there. Sometimes they use a cheesecloth and use the extra pulp that's in the blender and squeeze every little bit of goodness out of that, which I did not do. I was kind of in a hurry last night. I separated this into 2 jars because, again, I'm making the one regular and then one with coconut milk, which is going to be for the lactose-free version. And for the regular one, I'm using sweetened condensed milk and evaporated milk. And then for the other one, I'm using sweetened condensed coconut milk along with regular coconut milk. So this is the regular version. So I've got the sweetened condensed milk, which looks very caramely, and it is super thick. I don't use this, almost ever. In fact, I don't even remember the last time I used this, but it does look super rich and delicious. Generally, you make this horchata and then you add some water to it. This pitcher is quite small, so maybe I'll just add the water to the glass. And then I'm adding some of the evaporated milk. The regular recipe calls for 8 cups water, and then you're going to use 1 whole thing of evaporated milk and 1 whole thing of sweetened condensed milk. And then we're also going to add in a little bit of vanilla, which is normally a half teaspoon, but because I'm splitting this into 2 jars, I'm doing a 1/4 teaspoon vanilla in each. And then I'll mix this up and we'll be ready to go. Okay, I'm going to add this to the freezer while I make the other version, and then we'll try them both at the same time. All right, for this one, I'm just adding in the coconut milk and the sweetened condensed coconut milk. And this had been in the fridge, so it was quite thick, and I needed to break this up. It looked a little gnarly, actually. However, it smells amazing. And then I'm going to add some of the coconut milk. They also sold some coconut cream, so you could just add the coconut cream and some sugar, but it's going to be not as thick. And the fat is what's really adding the decadence here. I added some water to both. And then I shook these up and it's time to try them. For my glass, I added some ice to it, which I probably should have added to the other version as well, but that one had been in the freezer and it was ice cold. I'm gonna go ahead and top these with some ground cinnamon just to make them look pretty, and you can see how decadent this is. I wanted to add more water to this, but my son had tasted this and he didn't want me to add any more water. I actually tasted it as well, and I think it's a little bit too rich, so that's going to be a personal preference. But we tried these together. Mine is on the right, and it's lactose free with the coconut milk, and his is on the left. And we tried these, and oh my gosh, I have to say, this was so good. I actually didn't expect to like this one as much as I liked it either, but it was so good. It was delicious. This would be good to drink hot during the winter months. It's just so comforting. I thought both of these were very good, and there were so many other versions that I just didn't have time to talk about. Alright guys, I am out of time. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. It was a little bit different, and if you have any versions of these drinks that you enjoy, I hope you'll leave me a comment and let me know. Thanks so much for watching, friends. I'll see you next week.
Morning has broken, my windows are open. Wanna feel the wind blow through my hair. Which way do I follow? What happens tomorrow? I turn to you and hope you can guide the way. Sometimes I give up, just wanna be on my